The Trump administration is re-examining the role of human rights in U.S. foreign policy. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo announced the Unalienable Rights Commission last week. CBS News learned it will function as a study group. Pompeo said the panel was launched in part to address international institutions that have, quote, drifted from their original mission.
We must, therefore, be vigilant that human rights discourse not be corrupted or hijacked or used for dubious or malignant purposes. It's a sad commentary on our times that more than 70 years after the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, gross violations continue throughout the world, sometimes even in the name of human rights.
A senior State Department official told CBS News both sides of the aisle were consulted prior to the announcement. However, critics assert the commission could be used to reverse progressive policies. Democratic Congressman Tom Malinowski joins me now. He is also the former Assistant Secretary for Human Rights during the Obama administration. Congressman, thank you so much for joining us. You sit on the House Foreign Affairs Committee. You recently said that you fear Pompeo's new commission could attempt to, quote, redefine what human rights mean. Can you explain what you meant by that?
I think they may try to do it. They're not going to succeed. Look, what's happening here is that the administration has been criticized rightly for the president cozying up to dictators around the world, not taking human rights seriously in our foreign policy. And I think instead of addressing those concerns and doing a little bit better, the administration, or at least the State Department, is making this effort to raise questions about what human rights really are, what they mean, to muddy the waters, to confuse people. And that is concerning because it's very similar to what dictators like Putin are trying to do. You talk to them about human rights and they'll say, well, what does it really mean? Different cultures have different definitions of human rights. And I don't want to see the United States being anything less than absolutely certain that there are human rights values that apply to everybody equally in the world, and they must be respected.
I think, you know, in this country, we all assume we have a pretty clear idea of what that means. Can you give us an example of where this commission might be able to slide a little bit in the way you are describing?
So you know, to be honest, I've read Secretary Pompeo's statements on this and even some of the writings of the members of this commission, and I'm kind of confused. I don't really know what they believe. But, you know, I could see them challenging whether women's rights or LGBT rights should be on the agenda, but, you know, or simply just raising questions, and that is something we shouldn't be doing. I can see the government of China or Russia saying, look, even the Trump administration is asking what human rights really are, what they mean. Do we even have a common understanding of that term? Mm-hmm. And that's a gift to them. Just sowing confusion about the meaning of something that has been clearly defined in international treaties, in international law, and in American foreign policy for decades, I think is a gift to some of our adversaries.
And would you agree that for a very long time, America has sort of had the gold standard when it comes to, you know, supporting human rights? I mean, we certainly don't have a spotless record by any means, don't get me wrong, right. But we've certainly attempted to stick to some pretty high standards, at least in the past. Would you agree?
We have tried. Mm-hmm. Yes, we have tried. And of course we fall short. Everybody falls short of their highest aspirations. But the United States has been the world leader in championing an end to torture, in championing an end to genocide, championing the rights of minorities and religious freedom and the whole range of what are internationally recognized human rights. Obviously, leaders like Putin and Xi Jinping, the leader of China, don't like this. They don't like the fact that there is a consensus international position of what human rights mean, because they obviously fall short.
Right.
And so they try to challenge that consensus in every possible way they can. And, you know, I feel they have a friend in the Trump administration now in doing it. But you know what? There's been a lot of talk, maybe if I can shift it a little bit, about this commission that Pompeo has appointed. At the end of the day, it's just about a bunch of academics at the State Department theorizing. I'm much more concerned about the fact that the President of the United States says that he's in love with Kim Jong-un, the worst dictator in the world. I'm much more concerned that President Trump goes out of his way to defend the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia over the death of an American resident, a journalist, Jamal Khashoggi, or that he says that the free press in our country is the enemy of the people. This is much, much more important and much more damaging than some academics sitting in the State Department writing a report.
And Congressman, sticking with foreign policy, 2020 candidate Joe Biden rolled out his priorities today, and you, of course, worked in the Obama administration with him as vice president. Let's listen to some of Biden's remarks.
It's long past time we end the forever wars, which have cost us untold blood and treasure. I have long argued that we should bring home the vast majority of our combat troops from the wars in Afghanistan and the Middle East and narrowly focus on our mission to deal with al-Qaeda and ISIS in the region.
So now we hear him pledge to end those, quote, forever wars. But do you feel that Biden has spoken enough about his initial vote in support of the Iraq war when he was a senator?
Well, you're not going to get me to comment on the Democratic primary. I think where we are right now is Americans are understandably wary of massive military commitments in the Middle East, but at the same time, I think most Americans recognize America needs to lead. We need to lead with our allies. We should not be turning our backs on NATO, on the United Kingdom and France and Germany, or our allies in Asia, Japan, and South Korea. We have a president right now who is friendlier with our adversaries, with our enemies, than he is with our allies. Every Democrat is committed to restoring America's traditional leadership on behalf of democracy with our Democratic allies as our partners in that effort.
And, speaking of the Democratic Party this week, we have seen some Democratic infighting spill over into the public regarding House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's clash with progressives in the House. She told the caucus yesterday no one should be criticizing fellow Democrats on Twitter. Do you feel the Speaker has a successful hold on the progressive and increasingly vocal wing of the party?
I think Speaker Pelosi has done an extraordinarily good job in holding us together. We're a very large, very diverse caucus. We have extremely progressive members. We have more moderate, more conservative members. And if you look at what we have actually done, look at our feats, not our tweets, in the House of Representatives, we have voted together again and again and again. The progressives on one end and the blue dogs on the other end vote together 95% of the time on health care, on infrastructure, on prescription drugs, on upholding the rights of the American people, on a sane and humane immigration policy. That's what matters. And so I agree with her. We need to stop these silly fights on Twitter and focus on the legislation that we are passing here on behalf of the American people.
I like that phrase, look at our feats, not our tweets. Did you coin that, Congressman?
I believe I did. You should Google it and see if anyone came before me.
Well done. All right, Congressman Malinowski, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.